friends. Welcome to Build and Run, a real Unity VR development podcast. My name is Lex. These are the interns, Kevin and Joe. And we're going to teach you how to make VR. But we're going to start real small. We're going to start with literally installing Unity, the steps that are often neglected. And we're going to walk you through the very, very early beginning steps. This episode, just like every other episode, is brought to you by VRVU. VRVU is a VR digital agency where they'll literally help you with any VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, and 360 video project. You could find them at VRVU.com. And without any further ado, let us get started showing you how to install Unity, which seems pretty simple, but it could be, maybe there's something to learn here. So if you're not seeing my screen magically pop up in front of you, that means you're not enjoying this podcast the way it is intended through the VR Build and Run VR app. So if you go to your Android Play Store and you do a search for Build and Run podcast, you'll find our 360 app that's fully augmented with literally our screens as you see them, and a bunch of directional sound. It's really just the best way to experience this podcast, but you might be listening to this on just audio or just 360 video on YouTube. Either way, hopefully you get a good experience out of this. And if you want the very best experience, get the app. Just get the app. So we'll start here by going to the Unity 3D.com site. If you go on the upper right hand corner, you'll see Get Unity. That's literally how you get Unity. That's how you download it. And what it brings you to is a screen that says Personal and Professional Edition. For most of the things we'll be working on, actually all of them, you can use the free Personal Edition and you'll get by just fine. The major differences between the Pro and the Personal Edition is a lot of stuff with like shaders and renderers, and there's this very cool feature where your UI becomes black. Kind of like the professional Adobe software packages. Very vanity focused, and I mean you'll get the bragging rights. You get that very nerdy bragging rights thing where you open up your Unity and it's a black screen like a pro, like a boss. So this is what's up, brother? Recording a podcast. Come on in, man.
Hey guys.
And so we're just walking through how to install Unity live on it's Build and Run podcast.
Okay.
And 360 video. So this is go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Scott. Oh, hey.
It sees you everywhere you are, brother. You cannot escape it. Tell us a little bit about where we are and
All right. So this is our computer lab. We've got a few 3D printers in here. We have some well-mannered interns.
For now. And this is Staten Island Makerspace. This is literally maybe the best makerspace in the country, I would say. And it is our privilege to podcast from here, where there's not only us here, but there's literally makers in every nook and cranny of this place. And it's a labor of love from you, man. You've made this happen, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we're getting right into the installing. So this is the modern installer for, I believe it is version 5.x. And as we go through these screens, the one thing to notice that's new in this version is the Android and iOS build support that used to come pre-packaged in Unity doesn't. So now it is an option, and I always check that option. And the example project, if you have your 321 megs of space or 546, whatever, if you have the space, install this example project. They'll give you a lot of stuff to get started with. But then if you scroll down, you can see all of the other platforms you could export to. So you can export to Windows, Samsung TV, and all that. So as you go, continue. Yeah. And we'll be installing this literally on all the laptops here. This is the best free software you can ever download. It's literally like $1,000 easily worth of software. I mean, that's what they charge for the Pro version. It's like $75 a month.
Wow.
For a year, that's about $1,000, give or take. And that's you're getting it basically for free, minus a few little aesthetic features.
Cool.
and that gives everybody in here the power to make VR, 3D worlds, interaction games, export to Android, Apple. It's pretty sweet.
Cool.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I'll be here for a little bit. I'll come back in.
And so as we go through the download install process, you can go ahead and like check your phone or get distracted other ways. But I think the best way to spend this time, and it is a little bit of time, it's not instantaneous. I could fast forward this and like do a cooking shows where you have magically the bread is done in the oven 30 seconds later. But no, we're gonna actually spend this time that it's downloading live, teaching you some of the other things you should download. So the first thing, when you just download Unity, it is essentially the engine. You have the core component of making your apps, making your games, making your VR experiences. But if you really want to make something of any sort of quality or any sort of awesomeness, you really need some other components. The other components would be an art package. So if you want to, if you do anything in terms of making colors or images, or even in the future you want to publish your app, you need an icon. The best source for that is Adobe, and Adobe happens to have a free product called CS2. And what I read off their website, it says that they discontinued the activation server for CS2, including Adobe Acrobat 7, because of a technical issue. These products were released more than 7 years ago and may not work on modern operating systems. Adobe no longer supports them, but they give them out to you for free. So you don't have to pirate it. You can legally get an Adobe CS2. And Adobe CS2, especially in terms of Photoshop and Illustrator, it hasn't changed much. And what you get from the CS2, essentially the 2003 version of this, is not incredibly different from the most cutting edge $600 version that you would get from Adobe. Now, so you go over here, this link is in the comments section and the notes section of the podcast. So all of the links you can find at build-run.com, which is the homepage for the podcast. So if you need anything that you didn't get here, just go to that website and you'll see everything, all the links, all this great valuable stuff for you. So you go over here and you could download the Creative Suite, Photoshop elements and everything. You might have to enter your Adobe ID, so you get an ID, basically put in your email, and then you go ahead and download Creative Suite 2, which is fantastic. It's literally Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator. Photoshop is for raster images, like a lot of textures would be done in Photoshop, and Illustrator is more for vectors, more for like very exact kind of logos and things that are easily scalable. So you go over here and you just get the DMG for Mac. And one of the things to consider when you are downloading Unity and you are installing it, if you got to think about where you plan to launch your apps from. If you are planning on making Apple, iOS, or iPad apps, you may most likely need a Mac. There's some workarounds, but for the 99.9%, just get a Mac and install the extra Xcode that you'll need to actually publish for iOS. And similarly for Android, if you do need to publish for Android, there you will get the Android Studio and install that. And we'll walk through that possibly if there's time, but this install is happening ridiculously fast. The next thing you should really install is Blender. Blender is a 3D modeling software. You'll see Blender on the screen over there. Kevin's actually modeling something right now as we speak live. And it is free, so it's absolutely well worth your while to install it, download it, start messing with it, because it's free. There's this huge amount of community. There's a lot of videos on how to get started. You can say Blender to anybody that does modeling and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. And it's great for just starting. If you don't want to dive into like 3D Max for the few thousands of dollars that they're charging you, or Maya for the thousands, you can just go get Blender, download it. It's a very quick download. We're going to do it right now. And you get the Mac download, bam, and then you're downloading Blender, and you're done. You have your 3D modeling, you have your digital assets in terms of images covered, and the last thing is you need your audio. So the key to a good game, you may not think about it while making a game, but you absolutely know when a game has bad audio, because you're a human and you detect things of low quality when it comes to audio. Get Audacity. This is another free piece of software for Windows, Mac, and Linux. You download this, and this is very much industry standard. You can get away with basically everything you need to do with audio, in terms of syncing, in terms of recording, in terms of recording multiple tracks, editing, even adding effects like compression, which is pretty advanced stuff. But it's fantastic, and it's free download. So we'll go ahead and download this without the help files. So there you go, downloading. And you look at Unity is already almost done. The example project is taking some time. We're going to start looking at, while this is downloading, kind of taking the few next steps of what are we going to do once it's downloaded, right? You don't want to just have it sitting there as an icon, or one of those early icons where it's like a note in paper before you've actually opened it. So then you want to open it. You want to start messing around. And it could be pretty intimidating. You just open it up. There's a lot of different options. So what I would recommend you do is go back straight to the Unity3D.com site, click on Learn, and you will get into their fantastic tutorials and their documentation and their live training. So we'll start with the live training just to show you what that is. And you see right here, this Mike Gig right in the middle. This guy is literally the god among men in terms of video tutorials. And look how many times, if I do a search for Mike Gig, let's see how many results I get. Jesus, 32 times does he appear on this page alone of training classes. I highly recommend this Editor Basics. You take a look at this thing. It's less than an hour, and it will tell you basically what you're looking at when you launch Unity. It's a little dated. It's from, 2013, so you're going to look at some of the things he's going over, and you're like, that's not there. And the thing is, Unity has gone through some changes. It's not just the same piece of software that they had in 2013. It's fully revolutionized. They've added a lot of features. They've moved some of the things to more intuitive locations. But I would highly recommend going through this tutorial. Then you start moving into game objects, models and materials, and texture sculpting. We'll actually try to go through a bunch of this or some of this. But this guy is the highly recommended for getting started. Literally one of the best teachers in Unity. And then the next part is a little more structured. It's the tutorials. And that is this right here, the rollerball tutorial, is world famous. You can tell anybody in Unity rollerball, and it brings up these memories of literally starting out in the beginning of Unity and seeing how do you do something, how do you set up a scene, how do you create objects, how do you create some interactivity. And this rollerball tutorial is fantastic, and it's literally just videos. It's something, if you're gonna be watching YouTube videos of cats on keyboards or some surfing, no, just watch these. You will get much more out of it. It's just as entertaining, maybe more entertaining. And then at the end of watching these videos, you will be a Unity super genius, or at least not as much of a noob as you were before you watched the videos. And me as a pretty competent developer, I've been developing for some time and have achieved some things. I still go back to these videos, and there's still so much to learn, because the guys that are doing these videos, especially Mike Gig, they're pros. And when you watch pros do things, you learn a lot of best practices just by the way they do things, and especially if they take the time to actually explain them and be like, this is why I do this, and this is how this is done. So the cool thing about Unity is you'll learn there's 100 different ways of doing things. You can skin a cat 100 different ways, and the same thing with Unity. You can literally create this same rollerball tutorial, any one of these projects, in a multitude of different ways. But it's better to learn the right way, and then kind of go out on your own and figure out, oh well, I kind of like doing it this way, or I like doing it that way. So these are great tutorials. And they literally start out with beginner, intermediate. This is still intermediate, and then they move into advanced. These three are all. This is a 3D, 2D, 3D, 3D, 2D. This procedural cave generation is incredible. And then back to 2D, and this stealth one is literally teaching some of the greatest elements of Unity, where you talk about lighting and really just advanced level stuff. Where once you're done with this tutorial, like, you really feel like a legitimate professional game developer, or at least you feel like you have some of the skills to do so. And one of the key things in any kind of development of any software is know your limitations. If you're going to start small, if you're going to start making games, beautiful. Don't jump in and think, oh, I'm going to make Call of Duty 5. No, you're going to start out and you're going to make a game that you can make. And just by publishing it, just having it on your iPhone or your Android device that you can show people and show your friends and play together, you'll get that instant gratification, and that will kind of lead you to making more games and getting more into it. Because it's really, I'm not going to lie to you, there is a learning curve. It's not like you're just going to pick this up and then you're going to say, make a game, and it will just magically transform into a game. No, you still need a lot of work and learning that goes into it. But the beauty of it is it's literally enjoyable. You will never get this kind of enjoyment out of doing your taxes or programming a database or literally anything. If you think about what it's like to make a 3D world and then to explore it, you're literally a wizard. You're the future of wizards. You're the kind of wizard where you can make something that awes and amazes and astonishes people, and you have full creativity, you have full control over it. And then what you end up doing is what Hollywood producers have been doing, what any creative person really is doing is creating experiences that you enjoy. You get to do them so far. I haven't pulled out my credit card for any of this stuff. What I've downloaded was free, and then free, and then free, and then free. So right now, not a penny spent, but the capabilities of what we've just installed and what we're literally installing right now. I probably shouldn't have used the iOS build because that's a few gigabytes, and now that's taking some time. But yeah, this is literally, with this you can have the power of thousands of dollars worth of software all come together into something that is created by you. And that idea of building, that idea of creating, of making, it is revolutionizing this culture. It is no more just consuming, just like, oh, I come home and I watch TV. Now you can come home and you can make TV, you can make VR, and you can make games. You can make not just games, but other apps too that are more serious. But yeah, the games. Games are the most fun. That's really the thing that gets people excited. So we are now going to take a look at Blender, which is finished downloading. And Blender, basically, you just throw this sucker right into your applications in Mac, and that is it. It's literally installed. I have it installed already because you can't live without it. I did delete my Unity. So one of the things you're going to take a look at in Unity is it makes the regular app for Unity in the applications. And it's going to be here under Unity when it's done. But also, let's take a look at the file structure of what a Unity file looks like and what it's going to look like in your file browsers. So when you make a Unity project, you get to name your project. That name is pretty important. You should not just kind of like name it whatever. Kind of put some thought into it, because that name is going to be defaulted in a bunch of places in your project. So when it asks you to name a project, you put that name, and this literally will be the name of the folder that contains your project. And you hop into that folder. So this is a bunch of projects I've made. You hop into this folder, and you'll see the two important directories for you are assets and project settings. If you take these two directories and you put them anywhere, that is your entire project. That is your everything you've made in a project. You can literally replicate it. So if you're going to use GitHub or version control, there's actually specific GitHub ignore files that will help you make it a little easier. But if you're just starting from scratch, these two folders are all you really need to back up. These are what the assets contain, the stuff you're working on, so the different models, the textures, even the scenes, and the project settings are the project settings. This library, I watched the Mike Gig video a while back, and he told me that a good way to clean your project out is to delete everything in this library folder. So that's become a best practice of mine. So I go into a library folder, and what's going to happen is you'll have kind of artifacts of different things you've installed that may be lingering there. So it's safe to delete that whole, go in there and just delete everything in a library folder. Totally safe. It hasn't crashed on me yet, and I feel good about it. I feel good at knowing what is in each of these folders. So the rest of this is an APK. So this is an Android package that I've built for this, and let's take a look at where we're at in the install. Pretty good. So it's a very quick install. There's WordPress used to have this like 4-minute install. This has been probably 15 minutes so far, and that's not bad. And the key is really using your time wisely. So instead of just sitting there and like twiddling your thumbs, install the other stuff. Take a look at the learning materials. Take a look at what's going to happen once you install this ridiculously valuable piece of technology. And that's literally what it is, because we can't take any of the other steps. I can't take you into VR development. I can't take you into AR development or 360 video. I can't go anywhere with you until you install at least Unity. And if you install the Photoshop, the Blender, and the Audacity, you'll just be that much better of a developer. And that's really what this podcast is. This podcast is for you to become a better developer. The hard way, the easy way, the fun way, really. What it comes down to is not just by hacking away at your keyboard silently in the night. You really want to be part of a community. You want to have fun with this. So bam, look at that. Unity is done installing. Close. Installation was successful. So double click this Unity. And what I like to do is, because it's in this folder, so when you look at the applications, it's like all nested in here, and then you have to click this Unity. I just take it and I drag the executable right here on my docking bar, and that makes me really happy. First of all, to see the magical Unity logo all the time, but also that I can access it quickly. So that as it loads up, you have here getting started, little video that shows up, and then it shows up your projects. It probably asks you to log in. It's nice to have a Unity account, because first of all, you need it for the asset store. If you want to buy anything and help make your projects better, get the account. It's free. It's just your email and a password. Relax. It's no big deal. But you get to save your projects too. Like sometimes I've opened up a new machine and I've logged into Unity, and bam, there's all my projects all saved in the cloud for me, which is super cool. So I'm going to hit New Project. This is the screen that you'll be greeted with when you really start it up. And like I said, this project name is going to be the name of your folder that keeps it. It's going to be the default name of your app. It's going to be like so many things. So I'm going to call it Build and Run. Build and Run. Build and Run. And here you could choose whether it's 3D or 2D. Majority of my time I'm making 3D, but 2D is pretty incredible, and especially the newest version of Unity has some very cool 2D stuff like buoyancy and like these really crazy features that make some really fun looking 2D games. So we probably dive into that once we get through some of the VR stuff, which I know you're looking forward to. So I'm gonna hit Create Project, and we'll kind of very briefly talk about some of the things that Mike Gay covered in his tutorial. So right here it launches into my preferred view. You probably won't have that. You'll have this layout, which is default. So you'll be greeted with this screen. Your layout is totally your own preference. I'm not going to judge you. It's your layout. This is the default layout. I don't personally like this. So what I like to do is I like to start with this default layout and go into 2x3.